Cline's 1960 photograph, A Leap into the Void, shows a quiet Parisian street lined with old sidewalks, a stone-walled building and leafy trees. From the mansard roof of the walled building on the left, the artist takes a leap, his dark suit contrasting with the white of the sky. With his body arched, his hands out, and his hair flying back from his forehead, he's not falling, but leaping into the air, as though he would never land. Looking at the photograph, the artist's leap into the void seems to be a celebratory act in its own right. Staged on an abandoned street, with the exception of a train passing in the background and a cyclist pedaling away, Cline's stunt does not need a live audience. No one needs to know or care about it. The photograph becomes the only witness of the act, the only piece of evidence of this carefully composed event. The photograph was then published on the front page of a single edition 4-page newspaper. The newspaper was created by the artist to exhibit his leap, and functioned only to circulate the act, after which no more editions were created. Although it looked, circulated, and was distributed like a newspaper, it functioned more like an exhibition pamphlet than a periodical publication. The intention of creating a fake newspaper to self-promote the artist's leap is further complicated upon the realization that the photograph is a montage, a composite of photographs. Cline did indeed leap, but there was a tarpaulin held by 10 men below, so the photograph splices together Cline's above and the street below without the tarp and colleagues. The art historian Amelia Jones points out that Cline exposed this montage by publishing 2 different versions of the photograph, one with a bicycle on the street, one without, thus revealing its constructed nature. The photograph itself was performative and challenged the traditional relationship between performance and documentation, which is thought to be ontological, with the event preceding and authorizing its documentation. In other words, the photograph documents an event, the leap into the void, that never took place, and in doing so, the making of the photograph as well as the circulation of the photograph become the event. The intention of the artist was not to get away with this stunt, but rather to play around with the supportive and iconographic role of photographic documentation of performance-based artworks, and the assumption that photographic documentation captures reality. Since these ephemeral artworks which evoke the body and challenge the hegemony of formalism could not be exhibited, the photograph of the event stood as a souvenir of the unseen, the past, the elsewhere, a tool for the imagination. Cline's photograph in a fake newspaper gives life to the document, challenging performance's dependence on documentation to attain symbolic status within the realm of culture, and opening up its formal elements to performativity, to something more. No longer an unquestioned account of an event, the photograph as document is turned inside out, simultaneously problematizing the privileging of presence in performance art, and thinking about the document as capturing the materiality of presence through construction. His performing document raises questions around proximity, the ideological implications for claiming presence, and the competing yet generative relationship between form and content. I offer Cline's Leap into the Void as an entree into exploring the complexities of the recent materialist and post-humanist turn within educational research methodologies, in exposing the ways in which documents perform on the boundaries of representation. Cline helps us to think about representative and dissemination differently. This paper will explore what a performative methodology in educational research could look like and what it could do. I counter Cline's strategy of the performing document as both a method that problematizes the privileging of presence, as well as a method that creates a self-reflexive document that offers a different way of retrieving what can be known. In other words, his photo montage performs the paradox of documenting presence, revealing the impossibility of capturing an event's wholeness, and therefore its originality. It performs the paradox as a photo montage, which is exposed through dissemination. Without Cline's fake creative play on and with documentation that exposes the materiality of discourses that cover up contradiction and paradoxes. What would happen if we thought about data performatively? How do performative notions of authenticity and presence challenge the ways we understand the approach to data as a thing that happens, is collected, analyzed, and disseminated? What are the risks of understanding data as fragmentary and incomplete? will examine these questions in the context of research methodologies. The first section turns research creation practices through critical notions of performing documents, highlighting the concepts of dissemination as a site that is underexplored. The final section offers a place for this formative methodology within contemporary curriculum studies research practices, specifically the growing branch of public pedagogy. Research creation is both a newly recognized research category as well as a mode of critical inquiry that is tied to the long philosophical lineage. As a core category, it sets up standards and mechanisms of measurement, the very opposite of what research creation as a mode of critical inquiry attempts to do. As a result, there is a contradiction at play. Following Barrett and Bolt, these tacit knowledges of research creation are about the feeling of being in the game, where ideas or strategies emerge according to the demands that present themselves in the midst of the creative process. This means that we must pay attention to contradictions and situate ourselves within the conjunctive moments of articulation. I would like to put forward that research creation has reached the limits of ontological and methodological debates, or at the very least has grown fatigued. I argue that we must now turn to the task of dissemination. It is here that Klein's intervention becomes the key to understanding how methodologists can performatively expose the mechanisms that drive their discourse. By enacting the raw data of the event through photomontage, Klein helps research methodologists to shift their attention from the event of data collection towards the event of analysis and dissemination, where data is reshaped. Klein's performing document demonstrates the ways in which dissemination can expose this deformity and offer a potential space to subvert the power structures at play between the event and the document. This, I argue, is a conjunctive moment that critical research creation scholars are pointing to. However, the performing document is enacted through an intervention, by doing something outside of the trap of representational coherence. In order to flesh out the space of enactment, I turn to Derrida's distinction between scission and dissemination. In this essay, Collection and Dissemination, Derrida explores the ways in which discourses has the potential to reveal its own contradictions. I would like to focus on the third and last essay of the collection, where Derrida distinguishes between scission and dissemination. Scission is the necessary violent castration or cut, performed under a text that opens it up to new discourse, and dissemination is what happens after scission, is the material transfer of what comes out of decision to a new discursive context. In distinguishing the two actions, Derrida focuses on the moment of material transfer, where there's a power struggle at play. Scission signifies violence, which dissemination represents, and in representing it, closes the violence produced by the scission. Thus, scission establishes the power that dissemination seeks to relinquish. Quote, this scission, this opening, this pure appearance of appearing through which the present seems to free itself from the textual machine, in fact, denounces itself at every moment, end quote. It is in this moment between freedom and the denouncement, opening and closing of the text, where Derrida performs. It is in this moment of material transfer, identified by Derrida, where he seeks to invent a system of representation that can work within the space of difference created by the act of scission. This system is made manifest throughout his book as he superimposes different texts onto one another. It is both scission and dissemination, collage and montage. The text acts out its object of study. The point here is not to cancel out dissemination in order to restore scission's power, but to think dissemination as an act of scission. In other words, dissemination still exists as a cultural product, however, it is consumed in a different way. I refer to Derrida at length to articulate Klein's performative intervention as a methodology that transfers research creation from its worn-out research context into the context of dissemination. Like Derrida's essay, Klein's Leap into the Void de-emphasizes the significance of quantifiable research outcomes by focusing on the mechanisms through which a project strives to make something happen. Both Derrida and Klein turn to the visual strategies of collage and montage in order to expose these mechanisms and enact new modes of dissemination, while Derrida performs his document by superimposing text and numbers. Klein performs its document through the strategies of photomontage, more specifically through the dissemination of the document, which performed the photomontage. he turns photomontage, a modernist avant-garde revolution in representation, on its head. And using the device of self-promotion, publishing 2 versions of his photograph in his own single edition newspaper to expose the photograph as a photomontage, not only does Klein use the mechanisms of dissemination to perform the document, but he creates his own platform for dissemination through which he filters his photograph. There are no peer reviewers, no editors, and no publication guidelines to which he must abide to. Thus, what he did was create a new logic, a new conceptual form that merges scission with dissemination, the event with representation, in such a way that does not reduce one to the other, but rather in a way that brings the two together while maintaining their differences. This audacious attitude and appetite for paradox is what can push research creation to another level, returning it back to its philosophical roots of experimentation, away from discourses of assessment, justification, and measurement. In this context, we can begin to articulate research creation as an event that is both research and dissemination at once. It can be the first because of the second, and the second because of the first. This at-onceness means that we as researchers cannot incarnate either research or dissemination as an event of research creation. We cannot represent it or capture it. The nature of research creation is immaterial, and any material manifestation of it performs this impossible capture. This at-onceness of the performing document offers a methodology for curriculum studies as a field of academic research that focuses upon the intellectual labor of understanding, a self-reflexive methodology that enacts interventionist and activist scholarship, collapsing an important distinction between those who produce and circulate knowledge. The reconceptualization of curriculum studies